Three words that changed everything. The evening air was warm, carrying the scent of fresh pavement and blooming jasmine from a nearby garden. Keanu Reeves adjusted the strap of his grocery bag over his shoulder as he stepped out of a supermarket in Los Angeles. The streets hummed with the low murmur of life, cars idling at red lights, laughter spilling from a cafe down the street, and the occasional honk in the distance. Keanu had always enjoyed these simple, quiet moments, a chance to exist outside the whirlwind of cameras, film sets, and endless interviews. Dressed in a plain black jacket, jeans, and sneakers, he blended into the crowd, just another man out for an evening errand. As he approached his car in the parking lot, lost in thought about what to cook that night, he felt it. A tiny, desperate tug on his jacket sleeve. Startled, he turned, expecting to see a fan or someone asking for an autograph. Instead, standing before him was a small girl, no older than 6. Her blonde hair was a mess, tangled strands sticking to her flushed cheeks. She wore a faded pink dress with a tear along the hem. Her tiny fingers gripped the fabric of his jacket so tightly her knuckles turned white. Keanu's heart clenched at the sight. The girl's eyes, wide and filled with sheer terror, darted around as if she were being chased. Her chest rose and fell in rapid breaths, and her small body trembled violently. Keanu crouched down, gently setting his bag on the pavement. "Hey, are you okay?" His voice was calm, warm, careful not to startle her any further. She hesitated, her lips parting slightly before closing again. A single tear slid down her cheek. She swallowed hard, trying to form the words that seemed to be stuck in her throat. Then, in the quiet of the parking lot, she whispered 3 words that sent a chill down Keanu's spine. "He's coming. Run." For a split second, Keanu froze. Then, instinct kicked in. Without wasting a moment, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, his fingers moving swiftly over the screen as he dialed 911. The girl let out a small gasp, her tiny hands gripping his jacket even tighter. "No, no, please," he said, not to tell. Keanu gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. You're safe now." His eyes scanned the lot, heart pounding. Who was he? Where was he? Was someone watching them right now? The line connected. 911. "What's your emergency?" Keanu stood up, instinctively positioning himself between the girl and the open parking lot. His voice was low but firm. "I'm at the Sunset Market parking lot. I have a child with me. She's terrified and says someone is coming after her. I need help. Now." The dispatcher's voice sharpened. "Can you describe her condition? Is she injured?" Keanu glanced down. Her arms were scratched, dirt smeared on her knees like she had fallen or been dragged. His stomach twisted. "She looks shaken, but no obvious injuries. She ran to me. She's scared out of her mind." The dispatcher's response was quick. "Stay on the line. Officers are en route. Keep her with you, and if possible, move to a safe location." Keanu looked around. There was a 24-hour diner just across the lot, a place with people, with witnesses. He knelt back down, his voice gentle but urgent. "Hey, sweetheart, we're going to go somewhere safe, okay? I won't let anything happen to you." She hesitated before nodding, still gripping his sleeve. Keanu scooped up his grocery bag, keeping his free hand close in case he needed to act fast. He led her toward the diner, his every sense on high alert. Halfway there, the girl stiffened, her entire body locking up. Keanu didn't need to ask why. He already knew. Someone was watching them. Slowly, carefully, Keanu turned his head, and his blood ran cold. Across the parking lot, near the entrance of a dark alleyway, a man stood perfectly still, a tall figure in dark clothing, his face obscured by the dim lighting, but his eyes locked onto them with an unsettling intensity. Keanu's grip on the girl tightened slightly, his instincts screaming at him to keep moving. The man didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, watching. Then, without warning, He took a single step forward. The girl whimpered, her nails digging into Keanu's jacket. The actor knew in that moment, this wasn't just a random scared child. This was something deeper, something dangerous, and he wasn't going to let her go. Not now. Not ever. Shadows in the dark. Keanu Reeves held the little girl's trembling hand as they moved swiftly across the parking lot toward the 24-hour diner. His instincts screamed at him to stay calm, to keep moving, but he could feel the weight of unseen eyes on them. The man in the alley had stepped forward, his posture rigid, his presence radiating silent menace. Keanu wasn't sure if the stranger would follow or if he was just there to scare them. Either way, Keanu wasn't taking any chances. The little girl, still clutching his jacket, let out a whimper as her legs wobbled. She was exhausted, but Keanu gave her hand a gentle squeeze. Almost there, sweetheart. His voice was low, reassuring. The neon sign of the diner flickered, casting a pale pink glow over the front entrance. Keanu pushed through the door, the bell jingling as they entered. The smell of coffee, fried food, and syrup filled the air. A few late-night diners turned their heads, curiosity flickering in their eyes as they noticed the actor and the frightened child beside him. The waitress behind the counter, a woman in her late 50s with kind eyes and a name tag that read Nancy, looked up, her brows furrowed. Keanu, everything all right? Keanu exhaled slowly. I need a safe place to sit. Can you keep an eye out? Nancy's gaze shifted to the little girl. Her frown deepened as she took in the dirt on the child's knees, the tear in her dress, the way she clung to Keanu like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Of course, honey. Sit anywhere you like. Keanu nodded his thanks and guided the girl to a booth near the back, away from the windows. He slid in first, making sure she was between him and the wall. His eyes flicked toward the entrance, scanning for movement. The man in the alley was gone. For now, Keanu's fingers hovered over his phone. He had already called the police, but they hadn't arrived yet. Every second felt like an eternity. The girl sat curled up beside him, her small body still trembling. Her breathing was shallow, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Keanu softened his voice. What's your name, sweetheart? She hesitated, eyes darting toward the door, as if afraid the mere act of speaking would summon something terrible. Then she whispered, Lily. Keanu offered a small smile. That's a beautiful name, Lily. You're safe now. Can you tell me who you were running from? Lily's lower lip trembled. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting into knots. Then she whispered, My uncle. Keanu's stomach twisted. Your uncle? Is he the man outside? Lily nodded, her small hands clutching the edge of the seat. He's not really my uncle. That's just what he tells people. The words sent ice down Keanu's spine. Before he could ask anything else, Nancy appeared at the edge of the booth, holding a cup of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. Here, sweetie. It's on the house. Lily's eyes widened as the cup was placed in front of her. She hesitated before wrapping her small fingers around the warmth. Nancy shot Keanu a questioning glance. She didn't have to say it. He could see it in her eyes. Who is this child, and what kind of trouble is she in? Keanu gave a small shake of his head. Not now. Nancy nodded and walked away, but she lingered by the counter, keeping an eye on them. Lily took a small sip, but her hand still shook. He took me, she finally said, voice barely above a whisper. A long time ago. Keanu's heart pounded. Took you from where? Lily sniffled. From my mom. She was supposed to pick me up from school, but he got there first. He told the teacher he was my uncle. She didn't know. Her voice broke. Keanu felt a rush of cold fury burn through his chest. And your mom? He asked carefully. Do you know where she is? Lily shook her head. I don't know. I don't know if she's looking for me. He keeps moving me to different places, different houses, different cities. He never lets me talk to anyone. Keanu clenched his fists beneath the table. This wasn't just a lost child. This was something worse. Before he could respond, the door jingled open. Keanu's body tensed automatically. A police officer stepped inside. Two more followed. Nancy called over, waving them toward Keanu's booth. "Over here." Lily flinched at the sight of them. Her entire body went stiff. Keanu immediately leaned down to her level, his voice gentle. "Hey, it's okay. They're here to help." Lily's breathing grew ragged. Her hands gripped the table. No, she whimpered. He said if I talk to the police, he'll find me. He'll take me away again." Keanu's chest tightened. One of the officers, a middle-aged man with a kind face, approached slowly. "Sir, we got your call. What's going on?" Keanu glanced at Lily before speaking. "This is Lily. She says she was taken from her mother a long time ago." The officers exchanged looks. The female officer knelt down to Lily's level, her voice warm. "Hi, sweetheart. My name is Officer Morales. Do you know your last name?" Lily's eyes darted between them, her hands shaking. Keanu could feel her fear like a living thing in the air. "Lily, it's okay," he said gently. "No one's going to take you anywhere you don't want to go." Lily swallowed hard. Her lips quivered. Then, finally, in a voice so small it was almost lost in the hum of the diner, she whispered, "Lily Carter." The officer stiffened. Officer Morello's expression changed, like she recognized the name. She turned to her partner. "Run it. Now." The male officer pulled out a tablet, typing something in. Within seconds, his expression darkened. "Sir," he said, turning to Keanu. "She's been missing for 2 years." Keanu inhaled sharply. Lily's breath hitched. The officers immediately moved into action. One stepped toward the door. Another grabbed his radio. But before anyone could say another word, the diner's front door slammed open. A tall man in a dark hoodie stood in the doorway. And this time, there was no mistaking it. His eyes were locked on Lily. And he wasn't alone. The man at the door. The diner fell silent. Keanu Reeves instinctively shifted, placing himself between Lily and the door. His heart pounded in his chest, but his expression remained unreadable, calm, controlled. The man in the doorway wasn't alone. Behind him stood another figure, a second man, stockier, wearing a black baseball cap pulled low over his face. The first man, the one Lily had called her uncle, had a presence that made the air feel heavier. He was tall, his hoodie shadowing his features, but Keanu could still make out his sharp jawline and piercing dark eyes. Eyes that were locked onto Lily. The police officers by the booth tensed. Officer Morello's hand inched toward her holster. Keanu could feel Lily's tiny fingers digging into his jacket, her breath rapid, shaky. "It's him," she whimpered, her voice barely audible. Keanu's jaw tightened. The man finally spoke. His voice was smooth, calm, too calm. "She's my niece," he said, his gaze moving to the officers. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Keanu didn't buy it for a second. Neither did the cops. Officer Morales stepped forward, her hand still hovering over her weapon. "Sir, we need to verify that. Do you have any identification? Proof of guardianship?" The man gave a slow, practiced smile. "Of course, it's in my car." The second man, the one in the baseball cap, shifted slightly, glancing at the door. Keanu noticed it immediately. They were stalling. His instincts screamed at him. This wasn't about talking. This was about buying time. For what? A getaway. Backup. A weapon? The police officers were sharp, but Keanu had been in enough dangerous situations, on and off the screen, to recognize the shift in energy. This was about to go sideways. Fast. And then, Lily whimpered. The man's entire posture changed. His eyes darkened. His fingers twitched. Keanu didn't hesitate. He leaned down, his voice soft but firm in Lily's ear. "Sweetheart, I need you to do something for me, okay? When I say go, I want you to run to the kitchen. Find the back door. Don't stop. Don't look back." Lily's tiny body stiffened. "But I'll find you." His voice was unwavering. "I promise." She swallowed hard, nodding once. Keanu straightened, keeping his expression cool, unreadable. He was no stranger to confrontation. But this was different. This wasn't about protecting himself. This was about protecting her. The man in the hoodie took a step closer. Keanu didn't flinch. Instead, he did something unexpected. He smiled. A small, knowing smile, like he had already won. "You took the wrong girl," Keanu said, his voice deadly calm. The man's face twitched. His confidence flickered, just for a second. And in that second, Keanu moved. Chaos erupts. "Go," Keanu barked. Lily bolted. The man lunged. But Keanu was faster. In a single motion, he grabbed the edge of the table and flipped it, sending plates and silverware crashing to the ground. It created a barrier between them, just long enough. The second man reached for something. His pocket. Gun. Keanu didn't think. He acted. With trained precision, he grabbed the hot coffee pot from the nearby counter and flung it. It shattered against the man's arm, scalding liquid spraying everywhere. The man screamed, clutching his burned skin, the gun clattering to the floor. Officer Morales was already moving. "Freeze. Hands up." But the first man, the one after Lily, ignored her. Instead, he turned and ran. Straight for the back of the diner. Straight after Lily. Keanu's chest clenched. No, not today. He took off after him. The chase. The diner's kitchen doors swung wildly as Keanu burst through them, the heat from the stoves blasting against his skin. Lily was ahead, sprinting toward the back exit, small but fast. But the man was gaining. Keanu closed the distance between them. His heart hammered as he saw the man reach, his fingers just inches from grabbing Lily's dress. Not this time. Keanu launched himself forward, tackling the man from behind. They crashed to the ground, skidding across the tile floor. Lily gasped and stumbled forward, pushing through the back door into the alley. Keanu had zero time to react before the man swung an elbow into his ribs. Pain exploded through Keanu's side, but he didn't let go. He wrapped his arms tighter around the man's torso and drove him backward, slamming him into a stack of metal shelves. Pots and pans rained down, clattering against the floor. The man struggled, but Keanu was stronger. "You're done," Keanu growled. A sharp whistle pierced the air. Keanu barely had time to turn his head before two more figures appeared at the alley's entrance. "Back up." Lily let out a small, terrified cry from the far end of the alley. More of them. Keanu's pulse roared in his ears. He could take one, maybe two, but more. They had planned for this. Keanu's mind raced. No, this doesn't end like this. And then, sirens. Loud. Close, blazing toward them. The men froze. Keanu seized the moment. He shoved the man backward, then grabbed Lily's hand. Run. And this time, he ran with her. Straight toward the flashing red and blue lights. Straight toward safety. The arrests. By the time Keanu and Lily reached the front of the diner, police cars screeched to a stop, blocking the entrance. Armed officers poured out. The two backup men in the alley vanished into the shadows, but Lily's uncle and the man in the baseball cap weren't so lucky. Officer Morales had them pinned to the ground, their hands locked in cuffs. One officer approached Keanu, breathless. "You all right, sir?" Keanu nodded, barely winded. His grip on Lily was still firm but reassuring. Lily, still shaking, buried her face in his jacket. It was over. Or at least, this part was. The truth comes out. As the police secured the area, Lily was led gently toward a squad car. One officer knelt beside her. "Sweetheart, we're going to take you somewhere safe, okay?" Lily hesitated. Her eyes darted toward Keanu. Keanu gave her a small nod. "It's all right, Lily. They'll find your mom." Tears welled up in her eyes. Then she launched herself forward, wrapping her small arms around him. Keanu felt his heart tighten as he hugged her back. And for the first time since this started, Lily wasn't trembling anymore. The secrets we keep. The flashing red and blue lights cast an eerie glow over the diner parking lot. The hum of police radios filled the air, officers moving swiftly to secure the scene. Keanu Reeves stood with Lily, his protective arm wrapped gently around her small shoulders. The little girl clung to him, her tiny hands gripping his jacket as if letting go would make everything unravel again. Officer Morales approached, her dark eyes sharp with concern. "We've got the 2 men in custody," she said, "but we don't know how deep this goes." Keanu exhaled slowly. He already knew this wasn't just a simple abduction. It had felt too organized, too calculated. The fact that Lily had been missing for 2 years, and no one had found her, that meant there were people covering for her captors. Keanu looked down at Lily. Her face was still streaked with dirt, her blonde hair messy, but she looked less afraid now. She wasn't shaking as much. She wasn't darting her eyes around like a trapped animal. She was safe. For now. But safe wasn't enough. Keanu crouched to her level. "Lily, I know you've been through a lot," he said gently. "But the police need to know everything so they can make sure no one ever takes you again. Can you tell them where you've been?" Lily hesitated, her fingers twisted in the fabric of his sleeve. Then she whispered, "There were others." Keanu's stomach dropped. Officer Morales stiffened. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Other kids." Lily nodded slowly. He wasn't the only one. Keanu felt a slow burning rage crawl up his spine. This was bigger than just one man kidnapping a child. This was something much worse. Lily's story. The police led them to one of the squad cars, where Lily sat on the back seat, a blanket draped over her shoulders. A female officer handed her a cup of warm tea, speaking to her softly. Keanu stood nearby, listening as Lily began to speak. "It started when I was at school," she said, her voice quiet. "I was supposed to wait for my mom, but my uncle showed up first. He told my teacher there was an emergency. He smiled a lot. He knew my name. He knew things about me." Keanu's chest tightened. The man had planned it. He knew enough to make it seem real. Lily continued. "At first, he was nice. He gave me ice cream. Told me my mom would meet us later." Her voice broke. "But she never came." Keanu clenched his fists. A 6-year-old, taken in broad daylight, and no one stopped it. Officer Morales' voice was gentle. "Where did he take you, Lily?" Lily sniffled, wiping at her face. "Lots of places. Houses, motels. I never stayed anywhere long." Keanu exchanged a glance with Morales. They were moving her constantly. That meant one thing. Whoever these people were, they were careful. They knew how to stay hidden. Lily looked up, her wide eyes filled with something deeper than fear, something Keanu recognized. She had seen too much. She knew too much. And that made her a target. The missing mother. A uniformed officer approached. "We ran Lily's name through the system," he said. "We found her mother's last known address." Keanu felt a strange sense of relief, but it was short-lived. The officer hesitated. "That was never a good sign. There's something you need to know." Keanu's stomach twisted. Officer Morales spoke first. "What is it?" The officer shifted uncomfortably. "Lily's mother has been missing for over a year." The words hit Keanu like a brick. Lily froze. Her small fingers trembled as she gripped the blanket tighter. "No, she wouldn't leave me." Keanu's heart ached at the sheer certainty in her voice. Lily wasn't just a kidnapping victim. She was the only person left who might know what happened to her mother. Officer Morales sighed, rubbing her temples. "This just keeps getting worse." Keanu turned to Lily, his voice steady. "Hey, listen to me. We're going to find her, okay?" Lily nodded, but her eyes were glossy with unshed tears. Keanu Reeves had played heroes in the movies before. But this was real, and he wasn't going to walk away. The break-in. Just as the tension settled, one of the radios crackled to life. "Dispatch, we have a 10-31 at the suspect's vehicle. Someone's trying to get inside." Keanu and Morelli snapped their heads up. Keanu didn't hesitate. He moved. Following the officers, he sprinted across the lot, weaving between squad cars. Up ahead, past the police perimeter, a dark figure was hunched near the SUV where Lily's captors had been arrested. The police shouted, "Hands in the air." The man bolted. Keanu chased. The pursuit. His breath was steady, controlled. His feet pounded against the pavement, closing the distance between him and the fleeing suspect. The man was fast, but Keanu was faster. Closer, closer. Then, the man made a mistake. He turned down an alley. A dead end. He skidded to a stop, breathing hard, before turning around. Keanu stood in the entrance, blocking his escape. For the first time, Keanu got a good look at him. He wasn't just some thug. His clothes were too clean, too professional. And his eyes, calm, calculating, completely devoid of fear. Keanu's instincts screamed, this guy wasn't a small-time criminal. He was something worse. The man exhaled, adjusting his collar. Then he smirked. "You should have stayed out of this, Mr. Reeves." Keanu's blood turned to ice. He knew his name. The bigger threat. Before Keanu could move, the man pulled something from his jacket. Not a gun. Not a knife. A phone. He tapped the screen once. And then, behind Keanu, a car engine roared to life. Tires screeched. Keanu barely had time to turn before the black SUV sped straight toward him. The chase through shadows. The roar of the SUV's engine thundered through the alley, the headlights glaring like predatory eyes as it came barreling toward Keanu Reeves. There was no time to think. Keanu's body moved on instinct. With a powerful lunge, he threw himself toward the alley wall. The vehicle screeched past him, missing him by inches. The gust of air from the speeding car whipped against his face, dust and debris scattering in its wake. The driver didn't stop. The black SUV swerved out of the alley, tires skidding as it raced into the night. Keanu pushed himself up, chest heaving. His pulse pounded in his ears. But the man, the one who had whispered his name, who had smirked like he knew something Keanu didn't, was gone. Keanu's jaw clenched. They had planned for this. They had known the police were here. And they weren't just after Lily. They were sending a message. Keanu turned, his eyes scanning the alley, the rooftop edges, the shadows. Were they still watching? Were there more of them? His hands curled into fists. No, he wouldn't let this go unanswered. A siren wailed in the distance. Footsteps pounded toward him. "Keanu." Officer Morella's voice snapped him back. She sprinted down the alley, gun drawn, her partner just behind her. Her eyes darted from Keanu to the empty space where the SUV had been. "Are you hurt?" Keanu shook his head, still breathing hard. "No, but they just tried to kill me." Officer Morella's face darkened. Who were they? Keanu's gaze drifted to the spot where the man had stood, the one whom knew his name. That's what I need to find out. A deeper mystery. Back at the diner parking lot, the scene was still buzzing with police activity. The two men they had captured, Lily's so-called uncle and the man in the baseball cap, were being loaded into separate patrol cars. But Keanu wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Lily. She sat on the hood of a police car, the oversized blanket wrapped around her like a cocoon. Her fingers gripped a paper cup of warm tea, but she wasn't drinking it. She was staring off into the distance, lost. Keanu felt something tighten in his chest. No child should have to go through this. He walked over and crouched down beside her. "Hey." His voice was soft. Lily blinked, pulling her gaze back. Are they gone? Keanu nodded. For now. She lowered her head. They won't stop. Keanu swallowed. She knew. She knew the people who had taken her weren't just criminals. They weren't just bad men. They were part of something bigger. Keanu exchanged a look with Officer Morales. She exhaled sharply. Lily's mother went missing a year ago. If we find her, we might get more answers. Keanu's voice was quiet but firm. Then we find her. A trail of lies. The police database had one last known address for Lily's mother, a small apartment in Eastley. Keanu didn't wait for permission. He was going. Officer Morales agreed to accompany him, and after a few hesitant moments, so did Lily. Keanu could see the fear in her eyes, but she was determined. She wanted to find her mother. The drive was quiet, tense. The streets blurred past, the city alive with the hum of distant traffic and flickering neon lights. Keanu kept glancing at Lily in the backseat. She hadn't spoken since they left the diner. She just stared out the window, her small fingers tracing patterns against the glass, as if she was searching for something, as if she knew something none of them did. The apartment. The building was run down, the kind of place where no one asked questions and everyone minded their own business. Keanu stepped out first, scanning the area. It was too quiet. A single street lamp buzzed overhead. A cat darted between two trash cans in the alley. A distant siren wailed, then faded. Morales and Lily followed. Lily stopped at the front door. Her tiny hand curled into a fist. She stared at the door handle, hesitation in her eyes. Keanu knelt beside her. It's okay. I'm right here. She took a shaky breath, then nodded. Morales tried the knob. Locked. She knocked twice. LAPD. Silence. Then, a soft creak from inside. Lily's fingers clutched Keanu's sleeve. Someone's in there. Keanu's muscles tensed. Officer Morales unholstered her weapon. Step back. Then, with practiced precision, she kicked the door open. Inside the shadows, the apartment was dark, stale air clinging to every corner. Keanu stepped in behind Morales, his senses alert. The place looked abandoned. Dust coated the furniture. A plate sat in the sink, untouched. A clock on the wall had stopped ticking. But then, something caught Keanu's eye. A photo on the table. It was of a woman. Dark hair, warm smile. Lily's mother. Lily saw it too. She rushed forward, grabbing the picture in both hands. Mom. Keanu's chest tightened. Officer Morales moved further inside, clearing each room. Nobody here. But Keanu's gut told him this place hadn't been empty for long. And then, the sound of a chair creaking. Keanu froze. Lily gasped. Officer Morales snapped her gun up, aiming toward the hallway. A shadow moved. Slow, careful. Then, a voice. Weak, hoarse, desperate. Don't shoot. A woman stumbled into view. Disheveled, pale, eyes sunken from exhaustion. But Lily knew her instantly. Her small, fragile voice cracked. Mommy. Keanu's breath caught. The woman's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees, arms outstretched. Lily. Lily ran. Keanu watched as mother and daughter fell into each other's arms, sobbing. Officer Morales lowered her weapon, her expression softening. But Keanu wasn't looking at the reunion. He was looking at something else, something the mother had dropped when she collapsed. A small, battered notebook. It had a symbol on the cover. One Keanu recognized, because it was the same symbol tattooed on the wrist of the man who had whispered his name. The truth in the shadows. The moment was frozen in time. Lily clung to her mother, her small arms wrapped tightly around the woman's neck, as if afraid she might disappear again. Tears soaked into fabric. Quiet sobs echoed through the dimly lit apartment. Keanu Reeves stood still, his eyes fixed not on the reunion, but on the small battered notebook that had fallen to the floor. It wasn't just any notebook. It had a symbol embossed on the worn leather cover. A circle with jagged edges, a mark Keanu had seen before. Not in the movies, not in scripts, in real life. And that terrified him. He crouched, picking it up. The moment his fingers brushed the leather, a sharp memory hit him. Years ago, a private function, a whisper of names, a conversation he wasn't supposed to overhear. And that same symbol, stitched into a suit jacket. Keanu's jaw tightened. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Lily's mother flinched, looking up at him for the first time. Her eyes, tired, haunted, afraid, but also knowing. Like she recognized him too. The story no one told. Officer Morales knelt beside the woman, concern written all over her face. "Ma'am, we need to know what's going on. Who took you? Who took Lily?" The woman's lips trembled. She looked down at her daughter. "Sweetheart, can you wait outside for a moment? Just for a little while." Lily shook her head instantly, clutching tighter. "No, I don't want to go anywhere without you." Keanu crouched beside them, his voice gentle. "Lily, how about we sit right outside the door? We'll stay close, okay?" Lily hesitated, her small fingers still digging into her mother's sleeve. Then slowly she nodded. Keanu guided her outside the apartment. He didn't leave her alone. He sat beside her on the hallway floor, close enough that she could still hear her mother's voice. Lily leaned against him, her tiny body exhausted. Inside, Officer Morales spoke. "Tell me what happened." The woman took a deep breath. And then she began. "I used to work for them," she whispered. "I thought it was just an ordinary job at first. Logistics, moving things, but then I realized it wasn't just things, they were moving." Officer Morales' expression darkened. "Trafficking." The woman nodded. Keanu felt a sickening chill run down his spine. "I tried to walk away," the woman continued. "But they don't let people leave. They took Lily to keep me quiet." Keanu's hands tightened into fists. Lily's own mother had been forced into hiding. For a year. She hadn't abandoned Lily. She had been running for her life. Keanu took a slow breath, his mind racing. This wasn't a random kidnapping. This was an organization. One that didn't just take children. They sold them. His chest burned with fury. The meaning of the symbol. Keanu flipped open the notebook, scanning the pages. Most were filled with numbers, names, locations, coordinates, drop points, a system. This was evidence. Then, on one page, a name jumped out at him. Jonathan Pike. Keanu's stomach dropped. He knew that name. He had met him once. At a charity event for missing children. Pike had shaken his hand, smiled for the cameras, donated a fortune. And now his name was in a notebook linked to child trafficking. Keanu's hand shook with quiet rage. He had spent his whole life playing heroes on screen. Now he was going to be one in real life. The choice. Officer Morales spoke. "This is huge. We need to get you both into protective custody. You're not safe here." But the woman was already shaking her head. "No. If they find out I talked to you, they'll come for us." Keanu understood. This wasn't over. Not even close. If Pike was involved, this ran deep. And Keanu knew something else. The police alone wouldn't be enough. The decision that changed everything. Keanu looked at Morales. "I need a few days." Morales frowned. "For what?" Keanu took a deep breath. "To burn them to the ground." Morales' eyes widened. "Keanu, this isn't a movie." "I know." And that was exactly why he had to do this. Because in real life, villains don't always get caught. Unless someone makes sure they do. Morales hesitated, then exhaled. "I can stall. But whatever you're thinking, be careful." Keanu looked down at Lily. She was asleep, curled up against his arm. So small, so innocent. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his heart aching. Then he looked back at Morales. "I won't let them take her again." The hunt begins. That night, Keanu didn't sleep. Instead, he made a call. Not to a lawyer. Not to a studio. To someone he trusted. Someone who knew how to find people who didn't want to be found. And by morning, Keanu had everything he needed. Names, addresses, accounts, secrets. It was time to fight back. The reckoning. The world had changed overnight. Keanu Reeves had spent his life in front of the camera, playing heroes who fought injustice, who never backed down. But now, in the silence of his dimly lit hotel room, he was no longer playing a role. He was in it. And this time, there was no director to yell cut. Lily lay curled up on the bed beside him, her tiny chest rising and falling in slow, steady breaths. Even in sleep, her fingers clung to the edge of his jacket as if he was the only thing keeping her tethered to safety. Keanu's heart ached. She had lost so much. But she wouldn't lose herself. Not if he had anything to do with it. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. A single name flashed across the screen. Unknown caller. Keanu answered. A voice, low and steady, spoke on the other end. You're stepping into something you shouldn't, Reeves. Keanu didn't blink. I know exactly what I'm stepping into. A slow chuckle. You think you can stop us? You don't even know who we are. Keanu's grip on the phone tightened. I know enough. The line was silent for a beat. Then, a promise. Walk away, or we take the girl back. A slow, burning fury built in Keanu's chest. He had seen monsters like this before. They preyed on the weak. They hid behind money, power, and influence. They thought they were untouchable. Keanu's voice dropped, ice cold. Try. The line went dead. Keanu set the phone down and got to work, unmasking the enemy. By sunrise, he had everything he needed. The notebook Lily's mother had carried wasn't just a ledger. It was a map, a network of transactions, locations, and names. And at the center of it all, Jonathan Pike, a billionaire philanthropist, a man who had shaken Keanu's hand at charity events, a man who had spent his life pretending to care about missing children. But behind the scenes, he was the one making them disappear. Keanu's jaw clenched as he stared at the evidence. He had played assassins, vigilantes, warriors. Now he was about to become one. The plan. Officer Morales had warned him to let the police handle it. But the police couldn't touch Pike. Too much money, too much protection. Keanu knew only one way to bring him down. Expose him to the world. He made another call. Not to a journalist. Not to the authorities. To someone who could do what they couldn't. A hacker. Within hours, every shred of Pike's criminal empire, every transaction, every offshore account, every corrupt politician he had paid off, was packaged into a single digital file. And it was about to go public. The confrontation. Keanu didn't wait for the fallout. He went straight to Pike himself. The billionaire's mansion loomed like a fortress, high walls, and security cameras surrounding it. But Keanu didn't need to break in. He was invited. Pike was waiting in his grand office, sipping an expensive whiskey, smiling like this was a game. Keanu Reeves. Pike greeted smoothly. I admire your persistence. Keanu didn't sit. It's over. Pike swirled his drink. Is it? Keanu pulled out his phone. With one tap, the entire file of evidence went live. Leaked to news networks, social media, the authorities. Pike's smile vanished. He glanced at his phone, at the flood of notifications, his expression twisting into something ugly. You don't understand what you've done, Pike hissed. Keanu took a slow step forward. I understand perfectly. Pike's composure cracked. You think this ends with me. There are others. Bigger than me. Stronger than me. They won't let this go. Keanu's eyes were like steel. Neither will I. For the first time, Pike looked afraid. Outside, sirens wailed. Pike's empire was crumbling. And Keanu Reeves. He wasn't just an actor anymore. He was the man who burned it all down. The aftermath. By nightfall, dozens of arrests had been made. Lily and her mother were safe, hidden under protective custody. Keanu sat on a quiet rooftop, staring at the city below. He had spent his whole life playing heroes. But tonight, he had become one. A small hand slipped into his. Lily stood beside him, her blonde hair messy from sleep. Keanu looked down at her, his heart softening. "You should be resting." She shrugged. "You should too." Keanu smiled. For the first time in a long time, he felt at peace. Lily hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you." Keanu squeezed her hand gently. "Anytime, kid." And as the city lights flickered below them, Keanu knew. Some battles never truly end. But this one was won.